How do you tell a story? Do you start with Il était une fois, or Vous ne devinerez jamais ce qui m'est arrivé, or with Laissez-moi vous raconter ce qui m'est arrivé au camp l'été dernier? However we start one, we tell stories because we want to share the great or horrible memories we have about things that have happened to us in the past. We also sometimes tell stories just to provide information about ourselves to others. In our mother tongue, our first language, we don't even think about how we tell the story. We just do it. My son loves to jump in puddles. He's only 3, but ever since he learned how to walk, he has loved puddles. Just the other day when we were walking home from daycare, Jack found a huge puddle. Before I could tell him not to, he jumped right in. We were soaked and covered in mud. Needless to say, I'm looking forward to drier roads. This story is driven by our actions. We were loving and jumping and learning and walking and finding and looking forward to. As you can see, they are pretty important elements of my story. A true one, by the way. His boots are still drying out. Much of French class is really about learning how to use verbs to talk about actions in time so that we can tell our stories to others. The difference between learning and using verbs is important. When we learn about verbs, we often learn about them separately as if each verb tense existed in a little box of its own. We learn them separately so we can focus on learning the little details, like how to conjugate ER versus IR or RE endings, and how to deal with être and avoir because they have their own special conjugation. French certainly has its share of rules and exceptions, just like when we learn any language. Using verbs is a different story though. Let's go back to Jack's watery adventure to see this in action. Mon fils adore sauter dans les flaques d'eau. Il n'a que 3 ans, mais depuis le jour où il a appris à marcher, il a toujours adoré les flaques d'eau. Juste l'autre jour, nous marchions ensemble de retour de la garderie et il a repéré une énorme flaque. Avant que j'aie eu le temps de dire quoi que ce soit, il a sauté directement dedans. Nous étions trempés et couverts de boue. Inutile de dire que j'ai bien hâte que tout soit revenu bien sec dans les rues. My story is about something that happened in the past, but mixed into the story are current details about my son. Il adore sauter dans les flaques. And about my thoughts for the future. J'ai bien hâte que tout soit sec. Even when I talk about the past, I do it in 3 different ways. Using le passé composé, depuis qu'il a appris, et l'imparfait, nous marchions ensemble, and I even use plus que parfait. Nous étions trempés et couverts de boue. The best way to figure out how to tell a story and use the verbs properly is to listen to and tell stories in French. There are rules you can learn that you can get from your teacher or online, but it is so important to practice speaking and listening while you learn how to use the verbs so they can be released from their boxes and into your stories.